It's Tuesday evening and it's 6 p.m. UK time. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I'm Saad in southeast London, in Bromley, and the weather today is overcast and it's been, I'll say, mild. I don't call it, like it's been like that. And with me, as usual, is Gregory. Gregory, how are you? And how is the weather where you are?
All is fine. The weather has been beautiful, very warm.
Very well. Very good. Bright as well. Good. So welcome, listeners, to the Spiritual Discussion Program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message, by Abdul. Gregory, can I just ask you to go on mute? Getting some echo. Thank you. So every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic tonight is woman and purity. Woman and purity. That's the topic for tonight. And you can join in the discussion with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00 44 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Uprushing is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Uprushing. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world, happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives, so that it permits only those people who carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, to remind you, the topic for tonight is, the topic for discussion tonight is woman and purity. You can join in the discussion with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, as you know, I like to look in the dictionary for the meaning of the words in the topic. And the first word there is woman. And in the dictionary, it describes woman as, excuse me, just clear my throat. Describes woman as an adult female human being. And I'll just stop at that one. Yeah. So yes, it says a woman is adult female human being. Is that a good definition for our discussion?
Yes, it is good, but it's not complete.
Okay.
When that word woman is generic to when considering the female sex amongst human beings. It doesn't have to be an adult.
Right.
Even children can also, who are women, who are females,
Yes.
also fall within that same category.
Okay. Yes. So we will include children or women. Sorry, female, young females or children also as women in the discussion. And if there's any clarification needed at any point, we can always do that. So, okay. Gregory, in today's world, there's so many, how can I say, variations in people's interpretations and things. So I decided to look up other related words to woman. And so I just want to go through them as well. So we mentioned the word female. So it says female in the dictionary, denoting the sex that can bear offspring or produce eggs, distinguished biologically by the production of gametes or ova that can be fertilized by male gametes. So that is the definition in the dictionary of female. I must admit I was a bit thinking that's a bit restricted, but any case, what do you say to that meaning of female?
Well, I thought the topic is basically women and purity. The category we are considering is that of mankind. What you yourself just read out can also be applied to the animal kingdom. That is not what we're referring to. And therefore, that definition which you just gave is not specific enough to be able to qualify for the usage in our discussion. Because females, one can refer to animals, also the females and all that, whereas that's not where we're going. And that's why one would not qualify it to be used in the discussion to have clarity as to what our discussion is.
Thank you for that, Gregory. Yes, so again, our focus will be about human woman and not animal females or any other thing. So yes, thanks for that. Is there any other thing that we want to say about woman, Gregory, for the definition? Because are we talking about women on Earth or women? We're talking about human women. We've clarified this. So are we going to talk about the human women on Earth or beyond the Earth as well?
Well, since you mentioned the human woman, wherever there is a human woman, whether it's here on earth or outside of the earth, that means gross materially or not gross materially, it is womanhood that is to be considered.
Thank you for that. So we're setting out our, you see, the context for the discussion. So it's good to have that known at the beginning. So Gregory, I mean, this might sound a silly question. Is woman another species different from man being another species? Or is it the same species?
Again, you yourself had spelled out the context category, and that of mankind. Therefore, when mankind is considered, one can now have the picture that it is the same category, it is the same species that is discussed. Which species itself can be considered as a whole rather than split parts. So when one considers the split parts, you have woman and then you have man. And when you now consider as a whole species, then you have mankind as such.
Thank you for that again, Gregory. Just making sure that everybody's on the same page. Again, I just want to add that, you know, in the world today, there are, how can I say, other variety of labels for human beings. So the man and woman is given the main label, and then there's transgender and other variety as well. And what I wanted to check on that, Gregory, maybe it's a bit early to talk about it. Is it just just first, before we go further, actually, you said that it's the human being or mankind is the species, and then there's, I think you said part or split species, if I heard you right, which is one is male, or the human man, and one is the female or woman. So is it just the two split species that we have in the human beings, the male and the female?
The activities of the male or the activities of the female complements the activities of the male, and when considered, then we have mankind or man. So one is referring to the capabilities of these two, that when their joint activities form a specific species. So that is it.
Okay, so I think I understand from what you said there. It is just only the two, male and female, in the human species. And that's because, if I understand again, Gregory, that's to do with the activity.
Correct.
Right. Okay, so we're going to explore that a bit more. Now, I know again, Gregory, this may sound silly. How do you define a woman, and how do you define a man or male or female human? So what I'll do, the way I will look at it, Gregory, as you said, activity. So let's look at the roles. So in the human species, the female is the one who is gives the birth to the children, right? So I guess that's by default is one of her roles, and the man obviously, well, he's involved, but he's not giving the birth. So I just want to check that actually. Is there? I'm just trying to think about this question a bit more. Is it, Gregory, you need a male and female for the reproductive roles? Is that why there is the male and the female?
The basis of the discussion, basically, when looked at carefully, talks of the male and the female and their combined activity ensures that there is reproduction and continuity. There is no other, because that is what nature, through which we all came, that is what it provides.
Thank you for that answer there, Gregory. Yes, that's a very important point about nature, because that's how we have been produced or created through nature. So we've been assigned our roles from there. So yeah. So thank you for that. Gregory, another point is, I'm looking again the role and the activity of them. I know it's male and female because they work together, as you say. So, and when we have I have a specific question on the woman, I will ask that in a moment. So what I want to check, Gregory, is the activity of the male and the female in a physical function only, physical and biological, let's say, or is there more?
The activities of the male complements the activities of the female. Those activities could be here in gross material biologically, or in the non-gross material. The activities are still complementary. So that stands on its own. And that is why, to have a complete species, we must consider the activities of the male with the activities of the female, one working passively, that is the activities of the female, and one working actively, that is the activities of the male. Here on earth, gross materially, that is how it is. Non-gross materially, it's the same. The same notion is maintained.
Thank you again, Gregory, for that. So, so the role is not only in the physical, but also non-physical, as another way you could put it, or non-gross material, as you put it.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. And now, the woman is considered to be like the more sensitive to man, and I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to think of not the physical differences, some other uh, differences between man and woman. Um, yeah, let me just ask it like that directly, Gregory. Is there any ability that a woman has that the man, which is a specialism for the woman, you can say, that the man doesn't have, or is man is not so, how can I say, um, effective? If I don't know what the right word is for it. So, is there something that the woman has ability which is superior to the male?
Like you yourself just noted, the female ability is more sensitive. By being more sensitive, it means the woman is more intuitive or more spiritually inclined in her perception, whereas that of the male is not so much spiritually inclined, or one would say is rougher, it is more earthly. So you find in the workings, that which is more intuitive works together, complements that which is rougher, which is more earthly, in order to be able to achieve a particular goal. So that is the relationship between the female and the male.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. So let's go explore a bit more about the role of woman, and now this might be considered a bit extreme or one-sided, maybe. For example, in the Islamic world, there are many interpretations of the roles of women, and for example, somehow they don't consider the men and it appears that either the women and men are not of equal. I don't know what word ability, but somehow it seems that either women are required to have more protection and have permission from the men to do certain things. It's so I don't know how you can look at it. Are they inferior? Are they not allowed certain rights? And but I know there is a variation. So I can't give a general statement. Oh, Islam says women should not do this or they should do this, and so on, because of the variation in the interpretations. But I'm just going to pick some examples and just ask, if that's anything inherent about women, saying something about inherent abilities of women. And the example I want to pick, Gregory, is like they think the women should stay at home or work from at home. They're required to dress let's say, more restricted manner in covering up and so on. And I'm just going to make one more thing, which is, let's say, they're not sort of free to go out in public life. If they do, they need permission from the man of the household. So now, what I want to ask there, Gregory, when these roles or traditions are introduced, what is that based on some thing of quality of woman is meant to be a particular way, a role that they're meant to take, or what is going on there? I mean, those restrictions that have been placed on women, are they right?
Like we kept stressing, the activities of the woman complement the activities of the man. as long as they have the same goal, because that's what makes it, that's what brings the harmony. When many make the statements that the woman should be tied to the home, to a large extent, it is very well meant, but the interpretation is wrong. The home does not mean only the dwelling where one stays at night and wakes up in the morning. It's not, can't one talk about one's village, one's hometown? Is that not a home? One's state, is that not a home? One's country, is that not a home? Is the earth itself not a home? Therefore, is it not right for the woman to, in her interaction, deal with those things which are homely? That is basically of the little dwelling, of the town, of the state, of the country, altogether of the earth. It is because there have been wrong interpretations in these things, and that is why many who lack the requisite understanding consider that the woman must be tied to the home. That means she shouldn't leave. It's the same wrong interpretation that has that has precipitated many controversies and has put many under bondage. So it is very wrong to restrict somebody because that person must work in the home. That home itself could be the whole of the earth.
Thank you so much for that answer, Gregory. And looking at the other, in quotes, extreme, in the West, we have total freedom, in quotes, with none of those restrictions. Now, is that also, how can I say, right and sort of beneficial, total freedom, that one can do anything? And I'm not even giving any example, Gregory, there, because there isn't, when you say there's no restriction, there is, you can be like, if I make a funny one, woman dressing up as a man, it can be like you don't know, it could be just a freedom of expression only, or it could be more than that, we don't know. And so is there, I'm almost giving an alternative from one, in quotes, extreme to another extreme of total freedom. Is that right as well?
The problem has always been the wrong interpretation of what freedom is. The so-called total freedom is meaningless unless it has a context. The context which is considered is the freedom to make decisions. Freedom to be able to use their intellect or their intuitions in accordance with the laws of creation through which they themselves came into existence. So, the woman must be permitted to make those decisions, if decisions fall within her remit as the more sensitive part, to be able to perceive of the streams of power, of the impressions that swing in creation and transmit it to the man. For earthly or gross material applications. So if the personality is not granted that freedom of perceptions, then how can that female accomplish her tasks? In these matters, there has been total misinterpretation, and because all observations have been external observations.
Thank you so much for this answer, Gregory. I've got more to ask, but before I do that, I just want to tell listeners you're listening to Bless Radio. It's a Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uptrushin. If you are interested to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we are discussing tonight is woman and purity. Woman and purity. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Space live stream. That's to listen to the live show, which is between 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time on Tuesdays. And you can listen to the recording of this show the next day, again on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Space Grail Message. Space the topic of the show, which tonight is woman and purity. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows as well, also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, you were talking about, context. We always say context is very important. And so women, we have men and women with their different, you can say, abilities, but they work together in harmony to achieve a goal. And what I'm wondering, Gregory, what is the goal? Because let's say we are brought up in different countries and cultures, with our societies and friends around us and families and so on. In general, there's a consensus. What is the role of men and women? One is the obvious one, the reproduction, for the human species to continue. That is well known, obviously. And then, but that is only one role. Um, and of course, on the earth, we grow up as children and grow up into adults. And so it may be thought of that the women they bear the children. So, and we mentioned the word, the also work or role at home, but it doesn't have to be limited to you could call it the domestic home. It can be beyond the home, can be the whole earth, you know. So it doesn't have to be that. So what I'm wondering there, Gregory, so is there some specific role for women, or goal, as we've said, um, that which yeah yes, can you just clarify the goal, Gregory? Maybe there's a goal for the earth, there's maybe a goal beyond the earth. Can you tell us more about that? What is the goal?
Along the line at the beginning, the mention was made of it that the woman is more sensitive to the streams of impressions in nature, in creation. And that being the case, she receives more of this impression, which impressions are passed down to the man for gross material implementation. A very simple but minuscule example. Here we are discussing. In our discussion, the waves which you produce is transmitted, all the physical waves you produce is transmitted into electrical waves and then pushed across, and it is received. Once it is received, it is then there's the need to convert those waves into that which is physical, which one can hear. So you find there are basically two parts. The transmission of the waves, which are finer, and the implementation of the waves, which are denser. That implementation is what makes one to be able to hear gross materially a discussion. That which is transmitted, many times you don't even see it, but you can sense it with the right instrument. So also it is with the females. By their constitution, they are more intuitive to the fine impressions in nature, in creation. And that being the case, you find that many who realize the role of women, or who have come to recognize the role of woman, many wish to protect that receptivity. Hence, you find, this protection which goes on, she has to be protected. This is only the case for those women whose sense of their roles and fulfill what they themselves have sensed. So you'll then find that it becomes very clear. It is the same thing when you have the case of birth. Only women have been equipped with the instruments to be able to give birth, not men. So nature did not, or nature through which we all came, did not make mistakes as to assign things in a haphazard manner. It is the woman who is able to, to a large extent, attract that personality, that soul, who needs to incarnate, and as it is, to hold that attraction, to ensure that attraction is maintained until delivery. So it's very clear, whereas the man is to support.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for your answer and the picture you painted there. You know, as you said, we can clearly see how we are communicating through this radio, the medium of radio, where you and I are speaking and then it's being transmitted out to the listeners, you know, via, you could say internet in this case. It could be radio frequency as well. And then people are, I guess, tuning in to what we are saying. They've chosen to tune in. And so with using that analogy with a woman having her intuitive ability to tune into the streams of, I don't know how we could call it, streams of power, or I don't know, there are messages like we are speaking on the radio.
One may say streams of radiations.
Right. And now, Gregory, you and I, we are speaking in English. So I don't know, this stream of radiation, is that a language that, how do we sort of understand this language?
You understand what a stream is. Like you have a stream where there is a flow of fluid. In the case of water, you talk about streams of water. Many people have seen streams before. So that is not rocket science to picture what a stream is, like a running brook.
Right.
By radiation, it may be challenging for, with radiation, many cannot see, cannot hold on to the form, for a very simple reason that it is not available to the five senses of man. So you do not see radiation or electrical radiation, all right, but one can detect it. You do not see sound, but one's ear can pick it. You do not see smells, but one's nostril can pick it. So when one is talking about radiation, one is referring to basically that which, or through which power is transmitted in form of waves. The effect of these power waves is what one may see that forms a stream which comes in pulse. After all, we are talking. In our discussions, there is a break in the language which we speak. And people, this language which is transmitted into electrical pulses, vibrates, and it goes in streams, in bits, in broken bits, and is transmitted along. and the instruments are able to pick it. That is why we are able to discuss. Or do we need to deny that there are no waves, no radiation which is being transmitted? If that is denied, then how come we're able to use our phones? Is there any person on earth today who has no mobile phone, either a Nokia or something? Is there any person who hasn't used a mobile phone? Shouldn't they be asking themselves how these things work? So it's the whole thing is there. It's very, very clear that most of these so-called technologies in which you cannot perceive these power radiations, however, have an effect. It is the effects of these power radiations that are then transformed into sound, into color, into different things, and then we are able to receive it. Everybody can even watch the television or call another person through their phone, and they can see the picture. These things are so ubiquitous nowadays that there is absolutely no argument about it.
Thank you, Gregory, for this answer and explanation. Because as you pointed out, very practical examples there, which we are, mobile phones and other means of communication, which we, as you said, don't even question how it works, just use it, and without any issue about it. And then now we are talking about women using their intuition to detect the streams of radiation in, I'm going to use the word in creation, not only the earth. Somehow they can tune in and receive that. And yes, it might not be words that we speak like we are doing in the radio here, but they are able to, let's say, pick up the vibrations and make sense of that. So now, Gregory, what about men? Don't they have intuition, and cannot they just pick the same vibes as the women can do it?
Of course, men have intuitions that can also pick up. But don't forget that if we are working together towards a particular goal, then we combine our resources. Simple example, since many are so tied up with sports nowadays, and particularly football, or if you are in the same team, there are people who keep the goal. There are people who defend the goalkeeper. There are people who are on the attack. Each one of them has their innate abilities where they perform. So their combined activity forms the team. And it is the combined activity of the goalkeeper and the attackers, that now yield the results. Or do people wish to, in their sports, take out the goalkeeper and put all the other players in the goalpost and ask the goalkeeper to go kick the ball alone against others? Considered carefully, it wouldn't make any sense. So each personality has a skill. That is not denied. It is how the personality works with others, using his or her skill to attain to a particular goal, that is what counts.
Thank you for that, Gregory. So yes, we all have the ability, man or woman, and some are more skillful in one thing and others in another thing, but we work as a team, like you say. I'm just thinking. I mean, again, in the modern world, where men and women are working in all fields of work, it used to be certain fields seem to be restricted to one sex or the other, and for whatever reason. And now it's like everything is open to every type of work is open to anyone. And I guess, as you say, some women are more sensitive. So in each role, women, whatever the role is, they can do it in a more sensitive way, while the men will do it in their own way. So it's, I guess that's how it is. Let me ask Gregory: is that also how it is intended? That because, as you know, more and more freedom is given to us, or as time has gone on, developments have taken place, or maybe attitudes of people have changed, cultures and society has changed, and things are more open and flexible and so on. So is that a progress, Gregory, that women and men can do all the roles and choose whatever they wish to follow?
Progress can only be measured using the reference framework, which framework permitted the existence of man or the subsequent development from the subsequent development of the human personality from that state of unconsciousness towards the state of self-consciousness. It's only along that process that one can talk of, progress or making things work as they should. If that framework is not considered, then there will be no need at all to refer to any progress. For that reference framework basically are the laws of nature, the laws of creation, through which all that exists rests.
Thank you for this answer, Gregory. It's the framework, as you say, which is what we should be measuring the progress against. And so I want to ask of that. So how can we know, Gregory, if that is we are achieving that progress in the framework? I mean, is it when people have more freedom that they have achieved something like made a progress, or yeah, how can we measure that progress?
One of the laws that make up the framework is that of gravitation, that of spiritual gravitation, if one must speak of spiritual progress, there are basically three different areas. There are progress when it refers to that which is earthly, which is gross material, recognizing how to use gross material tools. There is a possibility of making progress along that direction. Just as we initially make progress in the tools like the car, the airplane, instead of riding camels and horses. And so one may consider these areas, but these are only gross material progress, refining. There is also progress in one's thoughts. Progress in one's thoughts, which can be measured by the ability to articulate earthly activities and make sense of it in a related way. First, in the thoughts which we harbor, we are able to ensure that our environment is progressive, that is healthy for us to live in, and also, if it is real progress, also healthy for our neighbors. Why our neighbors? Not only for ourselves, but also for the plants and the animals. That means they're not polluted. There is also progress which one can talk about spiritually. That is, making progress through our intuition in the way we are able to sense the streams of impressions which are in nature or which pulsate through nature, the streams of impressions which pulsate through creation, and making use of these streams of impressions, which streams carry the will of the Almighty, which rests in nature, pointing out the direction which the human personality seeking through or striving towards self-consciousness, it means seeking out the path he should take. Once you have that, once the human personality strives in accordance with this framework, it feels lighter, as if it is defying gravity. Whereas if it does not act in accordance with this framework, it feels heavier. So those intuitive feelings of lightness or heaviness tells or reveals to the human personality whether it is making progress or not intuitively.
Thank you very much for this answer, Gregory. It's, you could say, opened up a world which we can reflect on to measure the progress of earthly and our earthly and spiritual progress. Thank you for that. I want to go into that a bit more. Again, before I do that, I want to let the listeners know this is the Spiritual Discussion Program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uptrushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is woman and purity. Woman and purity. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we are broadcasting on blessradio1.com. I'll spell that. Well, actually, I just want to say that is the number one. So it's blessradio and then the number one.com. And we're also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1. Again, that's the number one. Space live stream. That's for the live show. You can listen to the recording of this show the next day. Also on YouTube, go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1. That's the number one again. Space Grail Message. Space the topic of the show, which tonight is woman and purity. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows as well, also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM / Bless Radio 1. Again, that's the number one. Now, Gregory, we talked about progress, earthly progress, spiritual progress, how to see that. And you said, you're talking that we have to look at the laws of nature or his creation, for example, gravity, where we can say, let's say, if you're, how can I say, I was going to use the word feeling lighter. I don't mean in a physical weight now. I mean that, let's say you do a good deed and then you feel lighter in that, the joy comes in and you feel lighter from the joy. So this is the way you can measure that, yes, I've done something good, and that is a progress for me. And also you can tied with that, you'll have maybe peace, feeling of peace around you and calmness, I guess. So that will be reflected there as well. And of course, happiness automatically from that. So now what I want to move on to, Gregory, because there are two main keywords in the topic tonight, woman and purity. And so far, we haven't really gone into that word purity. So I want to look as I normally do in the dictionary, what is meant by purity, the meaning of purity. And it says there, for purity, freedom from adulteration or contamination. And that they give example, the purity of our drinking water. I've got one more as well. But before I do say that one, what do you say to this one, Gregory, the one I've just read out? Freedom from adulteration or contamination as a meaning of purity.
The nearest to it is freedom from contamination.
Right. Okay. Right. Let me continue with the second meaning given in the dictionary. It says freedom from immorality, especially of a sexual nature. So, is that relevant for us in our discussion for tonight?
That is highly distorted. So, because once you said freedom from that of the sexual nature, how would they then justify birth on earth, through which only sort of sexual activity is the base? So such definition as the second one doesn't really convey the import of what is discussed when woman and purity are concerned.
Right. There was another word there, immorality. So freedom from immorality. And then example they gave was, the specific thing they mentioned was especially of sexual nature. So it didn't mean that it has to be sexual only.
As with everything, that which is referred to as the pure must be considered with respect to this framework, the framework of the laws of nature, of the laws of creation. That is what is referred to. In the case where that which is offered originally by nature, that which is offered originally by creation, if strictly along the line, man's activities is such that its vibration harmonizes with the vibration which creation or nature has provided, then it is pure. Because in that particular case, there is no contamination.
Thank you for that answer there, Gregory. Just trying to think on that. When we are, so the purity is, we are saying not only the earthly reference, because we're talking about laws of nature. So, and they through the laws of nature we have come into being and come onto this earth as well. And obviously you don't see any contamination there when nature has brought us here onto the earth. But what we do or we interact with may have introduced contamination, and I'm still in my head thinking about the immorality point. So would the way to put that, the immorality is if we deviate from the laws of nature, is that would be considered contamination? Or
of course, deviations from the laws of nature to produce caricatures. Whenever you have this deviation of the laws of nature by human spirits, they produce caricatures. These caricatures cannot be classified or categorized as being pure because they are caricatures. They do not reflect the in-thing. Now, even in paintings, you can distinguish between the genuine painting and the caricature. So there is one, what one referred to as pure painting, genuine ones, and the ones which is not genuine, which is impure. So one can already have that notion deep within himself or herself. Whenever one's activities are in accordance with the laws of creation, such that the activities of the laws of creation enable the human personality to rise higher and higher towards its goal, then and only then can one say that that human personality must be acting in purity. Else, if there are contamination, then in accordance with the spiritual law of gravitation, it becomes heavy. It is heavy due to its activities. It has wrapped so many things around itself. It's heavy and is unable to rise.
Thanks again, Gregory, for your answer there. I'm just trying to think of things that might, lead us to some impure activity. And I'm thinking, could it, we are creatures which are learning and growing. And in other words, you can make mistakes. If we do, I don't know if the word is accident, or if we contaminate through our sort of, how can I say, through learning, or I don't know if that should be called accident, but through learning, is that something impure? Oh, you're on a commute, Gregory.
The question one must ask, what is it that one is learning? If one may take an example of gluttony, where one eats as if there is no tomorrow. Now, subsequently, the human personality or the body is so stuffed with food and is unable to be as agile as it should be. How would one then classify that? Or if one has lust for fellow human personalities or lust for food, something, or one can also consider greed or envy. Would one classify envy or greed as being beneficial? So these things that one just mentioned are the basis for evil. And there is no purity involved in it. Most of what one just stressed there are immoral. For morality can only be considered when the activities of the individual gross materially in one's thoughts and in one's intuitions, once these activities harmonize to enable the spirit or the human soul to rise towards the goal, then and only then can one talk about morality and progress. All others are just adjectives to describe the caricatures that has happened, whether one calls it vices or gluttony or pride or envy or slothfulness. All these hold the spirit down?
Thank you, Gregory, for this answer. And I'm thinking that when people have selfish motives for their own gain, selfish gain, obviously, then that can be surely be understood to be impure, and obviously,
Of
and
course.
so obviously, yes, and so that obviously will lead to how can I say harm to us and others. Uh, and we've already pointed at the beginning of the show that this is meant to be, our goal are meant to be, as well as said in our previous shows, all for one and one for all. So we work together, and
Correct.
in this case, male and
Of course, there is special reason for that, because within the scheme of nature, womanhood is granted the greater ability to perceive intuitively, whilst the man deals with the more earthly rough parts in implementation. Therefore, it is that which the woman perceives, and which it perceives in accordance with the creation laws, and passes on to the man that counts. If, however, that bridge through which it uses for its perception, if that bridge is impaired, or if that bridge is contaminated, then the pure streams which are in nature, which are in creation, those pure streams will not be able to be transmitted to the man who needs it for his physical work in order to accomplish that. So it is the purity, that means that ability to vibrate in such a way as to be able to pick these pure streams. A simple example which we can give, here we are in our discussions. And when one looks up from your part, the electrical vibrations, which are then streamed through the so-called internet. And then there is the reception. If by the tool for reception of these waves which you are sending to me, if the tool is contaminated, that means it has some problem. I may not be able to hear properly what you're talking about, or there could be noise in the background. All these, one may classify these distortions, or if the waves are distorted, then what I receive here will not be as clear as it should be. So one can now imagine that for one to be able to have that clarity, there must be the purity of waves. There are filters which, in the physical sense, are used to filter out the noise from the real waves. As you all know, for many who used to listen to radio, one is using that as a very trivial example, there will be all sort of noise which are attached to radio waves. You hear all the S's coming off and things of that nature. Then filters are attached to ensure they pick the real essence, the non-contaminated waves, to transmit it. In a similar sense, the woman is higher in her perception, she has the innate ability to pick up these waves which stream through creation, which contain so much power. If she is able to vibrate in purity, that means that vibrations which is undistorted, then she picks the waves, those. If she doesn't, then it will be a weak replica, a distorted replica, a contaminated replica that is then passed on to those who need to make use of it for implementation here on earth.
Thank you for that answer there, Gregory. And, the picture you've shown to us. I want to give you an example or a proverb, let's say, or saying, where it is said that, well, especially Muslims use that quote a lot, paradise lies at the feet of our mothers. And it's usually said to remind children or to respect their mother, and respect, yeah. So does that mean that paradise lies at the feet of our mothers? Does it mean that because our mothers bring us up, they give us the best opportunity to have good manners and good, good, how can I say, brought up to achieve, I'm going to use the word purity, really, to become pure human beings?
In the first instance, it's only through the vibrations of the woman that is able, to a large extent, to attract that soul in the beyond that needs to incarnate. Once, if these vibrations are pure, and she is of good volition, then she is able to attract those human personalities with a firm good volition. For only through a firm good volition in one's activities, these firm good volitions, in accordance with this framework of the laws of creation, can the human personality rise step by step towards its home, the home from whence it set off as an unconscious spirit germ. And in experiencing in the beyond and finally on earth, and in its incarnation through the mother who carries the human soul for 9 months, having prepared the environment in purity, that human personality is able to incarnate and live in accordance with the good volition which the mother has already prepared in waiting, such that the human soul is able to achieve its aim here on earth and subsequently, after departure, towards home as a self-conscious human personality. For it is only that leads to paradise. Therefore, the saying that mentions that is correct.
Thank you so much for that answer there, Gregory. What you've pointed to really is, that's the foundation. Woman they bring us onto the earth, and through their purity that we are allowed to be born here, and through the vibrations that you know, providing us a home and you know, the care they give, love they give. Uh, Again, it's a foundation for us to move, to grow and you know, to strive for what is our goal, which is, as you said, to reach our home in paradise and up in heaven, in the spiritual world up there. So so we have a lot to thank for to our mothers there. Now, similarly, Gregory, there's another saying, or yeah, I will say, in the Grail Message, I can't say the exact quote because I didn't find it for this show, but it says the future of the nations lies in something in this sense. The future of our nation lies in women's hands. And could you explain that, how it is so?
It is only through women that the human personalities incarnate here on earth. If their vibrations are impure, then they will attract impure personalities. If their vibrations are pure, that is, vibrations of their activities are pure, in accordance with the framework of the laws of creation, then they will attract personalities that will be of benefit to creation, to the community, to the nation. So the future, strictly speaking, depends on the purity of womanhood.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I just have another question on that. What about the men? Don't they have any role in what? Because surely we have free will as well, as male, and we make our own decision.
The men do not harbor the women, the souls, but they have a supporting role to help to ensure the environment through which the woman is purified through his own activities. That means he has to contribute to it. But make no mistake, the human personality has the free will to be or not to be. Therefore, what normally happens is that the volition for that which is pure and genuine has to persevere in order to assist the women to achieve a measure of purity through their thoughts, through their activities.
Thank you for this answer, Gregory. Just want to remind the listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushin. And if you are interested to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, then you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we are discussing tonight is woman and purity. woman, and purity. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 07939 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we're broadcasting on Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1. Again, it's the number 1 there. Space live stream. That's to listen to the live show. You can listen to the recording of the show also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 there again. Space Grail Message. Space. The topic of the show, which tonight is woman and purity. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows as well, also on YouTube. Thirdly, we're broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. Again, the number 1 there. Now, Gregory, of course, the topic we're talking about is woman and purity, and now we are gone deeper into the purity aspect and the role of women in purity. And you've already said that apologies. I'm getting some message there, and I apologize for the being loud. So, and we've talked about women, working in purity and how incredibly fundamental, or let's say vast impact that they can have on the future of humanity, I would say. You talked about nations and even as mothers, so truly a massive impact on our future, and it's all through if they act in purity or if they don't act in purity. Now, and of course they bring the next generation to us, on this earth every time. But each woman is acting as an individual, Gregory, not as a group. Well, at least I think that's the way. So how can it happen? I'm still trying to understand. Do the women, Gregory, work sort of unknowingly, because they don't get together to think of the next generation, that's for sure, or to bring the next generation. They just do it their own child. So I'm wondering, I can understand the individual impact of each child, but how does it become like whole nation? I know we mentioned that, but I'm still trying to understand this. Is it they're working some joint way that brings the sort of the future, affects the future so much?
But we seem to have forgotten the notion of a nation, which is basically a collection of individuals who have a similar goal or the same goal. That's very roughly and generally. It is in the process of attraction of that which is of benefit, of that which is good, as long as the personality longs for and strives after that which is pure, then the fruits that has arisen through such attraction in reciprocal activity, that fruit will bear semblance to that longing. And therefore, in the collection of individuals who, in their activities, not only longs for, but strives after purity, then their activities will resonate in the love of the Almighty, through which all that is good comes.
Thank you very much for your answer there, Gregory. I'm trying to think. Earlier I spoke about in, let's say, Islamic tradition or some interpretation of Islamic tradition, women having certain role or being allowed to do this and not allowed to do that, let's say. What I was wondering now, something a little bit different. Sometimes they segregate men and women in meetings and such activities, certain activities. Is there any? I'm trying to think of something on that. So, is there any? How can I say? Area of activity, Gregory, when women should come together and work by themselves together, and men also like that by themselves, and then other activities where men and women work jointly. As you say, there's freedom, so you can't say, yeah, it must be this or it must be that. But
without further ado, of course, there are many areas. Take, for instance, since many are so hooked to sports and football, don't we have women football, so-called? Whether it is right or wrong is a different discussion. And don't we have men's football? So we have different teams. They do not mix. However, in music, that may not be the case. We do have areas where they mix. Or do we now say, because there is freedom, we should take, in the case of physical activity, mix all of them together? Why do you yourself think in sports there is the sprints in which they separate the females from the male? If, like many boasts, that man is equal to woman, then, as you will see, they are now saying that one is replaceable by the other. These are all distorted conceptions that have been brought about. The question one must ask, how many men have wombs to give birth? None. Which already tells, very simply, that in nature, these have been separated. The activities of the man and the activities of the woman shall, when brought together, they complement. They are not equal. So the man cannot say, I'm equal to the woman, or the woman say, I'm equal to the man. It doesn't just exist for the capabilities of the woman, spiritual and the non-spiritual, are different from the capabilities of the man. However, in their joint activities, they strive towards the same goal. That means they complement.
Thank you very much for this answer, Gregory. Something just came in my head now. Earlier today, just one second. Yeah, earlier today I was listening to the radio, and there was this discussion about women's health or medical problems they go through, which the men do not go through. Menopause, and which is famously known, but there's other things as well that women suffer. And what the lady on the radio was saying was that it seems that the medical conditions for men, for example, prostrate conditions, which are also again well known, there's more treatment and more help, or let's say more research done for them. But for women, when they suffer some very painful conditions, it seems they're ignored or get over it. It's almost like that sort of attitude. And this is not a suffering for one day, it's for years, and it's not being diagnosed. And then only, let's say, something from childhood, which it was said, maybe it's irritable bowel syndrome or something, some other condition. And they're never able to really find out what exactly is the problem. And then, let's say 20 years later, then they diagnose, it's actually, so in this case, was something, I have to say, I don't fully understand myself, but it was called endometriosis. And it's, I can't exactly describe it, but it's some sort of, let's say, gynecological condition where the women are suffering this pain and they can't have and whatever they are given, it doesn't really, there's no cure, let's put it this way. And so the women are saying we are not being taken seriously, people are not doing the research to find out what is the, what their how to solve these problems. And as I said, there's like a bias, whether it's deliberate or not. We don't know. So, to make a question of that, Gregory, it seems that women have to work harder or not really listen to when they have difficult issues, specifically here medical ones, than the men. Men seem to have a louder voice than the women and get their way what they need, or better treatment at least, than what the women get. So is there something going on there, Gregory, that the women are, is it something about women not expressing themselves? I mean, it doesn't seem to be that they don't express themselves, they do express, but it doesn't seem to be taken seriously as the men. So so my question on that is the women treated unfairly somehow than men in these type of things?
One should be very careful and reticent with this. For many a time, there is the talk of breast cancer. And with breast cancer, which affects women, so much attention is placed on it, and to ensure that a treatment of this or a regime is put in place for checks again and again. There was no complaint of this from any man. When it comes to prostate cancer, one is not sure was that women suffer from prostate cancer, and therefore regimes are put in place to check, to diagnose prostate cancer. So you find that peculiarities on the women's side and peculiarities on the men's side are considered. So it would be very difficult to say that attention is not paid onto some peculiarities on the women's side because they are women and the men make much noise. One of the key things which is very clear is that of cancer and breast cancer. And almost all hospitals pay attention to these things to ensure there is a regime to help, to alleviate this. So that is the best one can say in these matters.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I mean, I appreciate the subject I brought up is like, although these problems have existed for years, but there's more in the public now. I'm talking about these women medical issues, and not obviously as big as the breast cancer and prostate cancer, but everybody sort of pretty much knows about that. So these are the issues. They of course are not as big as those cancers, but they're there. So obviously those women who are suffering, they obviously feel bad when they cannot find out. First of all, is diagnosis. That's even the first problem. They can't even get the diagnosis right. It takes years. It's like almost a guesswork before they eventually. Somehow it's found out eventually. I guess this is how humanity is, that we are not sensitive, Gregory, and are able to pick up the tuning in, as we say, with the intuition, to know, okay, this is what actually is happening here, and I don't say I should be blamed on the man or the woman. It's just somehow we are not progressed there in that direction yet.
But again, it is also a fact that justifiably there might be ailments which many a man hasn't picked up, but which many a woman has picked up, but could not articulate these ailments to make it known to so-called researchers to focus on it. It does take time to be able to collect all the information together and make sense out of it. Else, if there is a rush to make pronouncements on how things should be treated, it may well happen, that it's done wrongly and it becomes a catastrophe.
Thank you for that, Gregory. Another issue that I'm still thinking if this is so much happening in today's world, but I think it is. Women are sort of looked down if they commit, if I said adultery, or it doesn't even have to be that. It's just something, let's say something that men do, which let's call it as a sin, and then women do a sin, but somehow women are looked more down on or criticized for than a man. It's almost like man can play around, if I can put in these words, and the women, if they play around, it's like, oh, you must be the worst person. And and I'm not comparing that with the medical one, but I just want to say somehow this seems to be this attitude where the men are not so looked at in that. When I said the word fairly, I mean that way. Same activity, two people one is male, one is female, have committed a sin, but the female seems to get the bigger abuse or victimization than the man. So again, is there anything that can be behind that? Is it some tendency within men than women or something. Just wanted to see that, understand that.
Well, very clearly, to whom much is given or granted by nature or by creation, much is also expected. Therefore, within the scheme of things, since the woman is granted more intuitively that ability to perceive, she, in that case, is superior to man. And as it is said, to whom more has been granted, more is expected. That could be part of the reason why you have that behavior. Because there's great expectation from her whom is looked up to be a model through which many will have to copy, because I want to be like that person. She is of high virtue, because she stands higher than man. That is in itself is a fact, undeniable. Therefore, it is expected that much must come from her through her behavior.
Thanks very much for this answer, Gregory, because obviously you've just pointed out the higher responsibility or higher ability of woman, and correspondingly that means so the penalty for, you could say, misbehavior or distortion is higher as well. So yes, that makes sense. And it makes me think, Gregory, and again in this our modern society, how women are used as objects and for selling in sexual ways and other ways, and so you can see, I mean, man is also guilty there, because they're well, it's a mutual thing. Let me say that way. So it's not can't really make a specific claim on that. But yes. Now, I think I can just put one more question. Yes, Gregory, how can man help woman to sort of steer her to her real task, rather than, go astray, let's say?
Many a time, the woman is a product or response to the environment around her. For those who are not very strong, the environment around her, which she has permitted around her, is involved in the making of her decisions. Therefore, the need is always there to respect the woman by ensuring the thought forms which have an impact on her, which have an effect on her, these thought forms are pure, that help to elevate her. So she has to make her decisions. It is only hoped that a support in thoughts the support in deeds will be helpful. Other than that, there can be no compulsion, but always a continuous support in thoughts and deeds to ensure subsequently, now or later, she will improve on her perceptive ability to be able to attract that which has touched her and pass it on. That could be the basis of the type of life which the woman should live with the support of men.
Thank you. Thank you, Gregory, for that. Dear listeners, we've come to the end of our show tonight with the topic of woman and purity. Hope you've enjoyed the discussion. And I'd like to end with the reading of the beginning of the Grail Message, which is in the foreword, titled, For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I am addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such, it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you're truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Uprushing. Dear listeners, if you are interested to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, please go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. Gregory, anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing the listeners a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. Same from me, listeners. Have a great week. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday with another topic from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. God bless. Good night.